Coming up on Week in Review, design plans finally revealed for a new look KCI. Downtown baseball, anyone? City Hall studying foresights to bring the Royals close to Sprint Center. The Kansas Supreme Court once again declares school funding unconstitutional. So what happens now? And Brownback quizzed on Capitol Hill as he makes his case to join the Trump administration.
Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome everyone, I'm Nick Haynes. Those stories and more straight ahead on the program that connects the dots on the news of the week in this place we call home, dissecting those stories from Kansas City's #1 morning show. Fox 4 News anchor Mark Alford is with us. From the #1 NPR station in Kansas City, Steve Kraske, editorial writer for the Kansas City Star. Also from our #1 daily newspaper, Dave Helling. And from the #1 alternative newspaper, starting with the letter P, pitch contributing writer Barbara Shelley. Alrighty, we can joke a little bit, but it has been a very heavy week in the news nationally and locally. A massacre in Las Vegas comes on the heels of a mass shooting in downtown Lawrence and a gun suicide in a high school restroom in Lee Summit. We take a look at how all three incidents are impacting local policymakers this week. We start, though, with area Congressman Emanuel Cleaver.
The chair asks that the House now observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the attack in Las Vegas.
As the U.S. House marks a moment of silence to honor the victims in Las Vegas, the Kansas City Democrat declines to take part. Congressman Cleaver says he's done with thoughts and prayers after major tragedies like this one. He prays privately in his office instead, he claims. Now, a week after NFL players are blasted for taking a knee during the national anthem, what cost is there to Emanuel Cleaver for not participating in a moment of silence for what is a national tragedy? Or is he lauded for that, Steve Kraske?
I don't think there's much cost for him at all. The congressman's religious credentials are well known. He's a long-standing United Methodist Church pastor. He's taking a stand on a much broader question here about gun control and where he thinks that debate needs to go. I think most voters will understand that.
Do you agree with that, Mark?
I do. I think Emanuel Cleaver has this right. Matthew 6:5 talks about going in private to pray, and that's what the Reverend's doing. We have heard about so many mass shootings, so much death, so much destruction, and all we hear is this trite thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. It's every story we do. It's thoughts and prayers this, thoughts and prayers that. Are people actually praying for the people that you say you're praying for? If you're not, you better be. And what is it keeping them in your thoughts?
But aren't we seeing some action, though, at least from Congress at this moment in time? Even Kevin Yoder from the 3rd District in Kansas, Barbara, and Lynn Jenkins, also from Kansas, and Senator Pat Roberts, all saying they would support a ban on bump stocks. That was the device used in those Las Vegas shootings that allowed a semi-automatic weapon to become an automatic weapon. Isn't that showing that some movement is taking place?
I think it depends on how you want to frame it. I think a lot of people are framing it as some movement and, you know, bipartisanship and things like that. But it's a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, even the NRA has said, oh, it's okay if the ATF does a review of these things. It's a pretty easy step to take, and it is far, far removed from any kind of comprehensive gun safety legislation.
I just weigh in a little bit on Congressman Cleaver. You know, he's right that the moment of silence is a gesture, but not participating is also a gesture. I mean, it isn't really addressing the problem. It's just his own way of expressing his concerns. The debate around guns is all about gestures. It's always been that. It's how people raise money, particularly the National Rifle Association. That's why yesterday's announcement on gun stocks, I think, was important, because it in essence said there is a line that even the NRA can't cross. And as long as people who are working on gun control sort of understand that, perhaps they can move beyond just this device decision into something more substantial.
Mark.
I thought it was really odd how quickly Kevin Yoder flipped on this position, because on that morning he came out with a position that, hey, we're not going to really look at any new gun controls, it's too early for that, and then boom, within minutes almost, he had switched and sent out an email saying that, yeah, we need to take a look at these devices that may make a gun seem like an automatic.
So why was that, do you think, Steve?
Well, because national sentiment was moving so quickly, I think. But I just would reiterate what Barb just said. It is a long, long way, Nick, from going from bump stocks to gun registration to banning gun sales at gun shows, that kind of thing. Those are lines in the sand that the NRA has drawn so clearly. And I don't know, even after a tragedy like Sandy Hook, whether this Congress will go anywhere close to those.
Now, the events in Las Vegas consumed news coverage, but just before that story gripped the headlines, there's a mass shooting in downtown Lawrence on popular Massachusetts Street.
5 people got shot in Lawrence, Kansas last night. 3 of them died. It didn't even make a blip because this is just a regular part of our lives now.
Late-night comedian and talk show host Jimmy Kimmel weighing in on national television this week. But is it fair to say that didn't make a blip? I mean, it was on all of the newscasts, Barbara. A huge front-page story in the Kansas City Star about this?
Well, it made a blip locally here because, you know, I think because it was in Lawrence and who these victims were. They were totally innocent, you know, good people just trying to have a night out. So it made a blip here. And it's really kind of amazing and incredibly frustrating that that happened. You know, some of these kids had been in Lawrence because they were trying to avoid Westport. And, you know, it's just really frustrating that there is so much gun violence.
Does it in any way, though, make any changes? Do local officials here look at any of these incidents and say we need to make change here? Does it reopen, for instance, the arguments that have been stalled in Kansas City about privatizing the streets of Westport so that they can actually prevent guns from going into that entertainment district there?
Well, Nick, we wrote about this week. One of the reactions one might anticipate from the Las Vegas shooting and the Lawrence shooting is for further restrictions on open spaces and further you know, elimination of outdoor music festivals because they can't be protected. There is no way that you could have prevented the Las Vegas shooter. He's 32 stories in the air, 500 yards from the target. It isn't as if you could add metal detectors and stop that kind of thing. You will see privatization efforts on streets, not just in Westport. How about Massachusetts Street in Lawrence if this continues? One of the things that always happens after these events is our own freedoms are restricted. More metal detectors, more security. You know, you have to show your purse at the Royals game now. That would have been inconceivable 20 years ago. That's one of the pernicious effects of events like this. And it's going to spread. That's why the argument about freedom around guns is much more complicated than most people know.
Now, most people killed by guns, though, in America don't die in mass shootings. In fact, 2 out of every 3 aren't homicide victims at all, but rather people who take their own lives through suicide. That issue also hitting the headlines this week. Schools all across the metro have dealt with the pain of a student's suicide. But is it rare for a student to come to school with a gun and take their own life in the restroom during the school day? Has the suicide death of a high school senior at Lee Summit North prompted any changes? Mark Alford.
My kids went to school there at Lee Summit North, and so we have some connection to this. And we're coming up on Fox 4 on the 5th anniversary of Don Harmon's untimely death through suicide. So this kind of hits close to home. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's social media, the need for attention. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but clearly people are not being fed something in their souls, their person, and it's leading to some very bad mental trouble. The problem is big. The solution is talking about it, I think, in part. Fox 4's had a campaign called You Matter. We're restarting that on the 5th anniversary here of Don's suicide, trying to get people to talk about the issue of suicide and mental health, and that it is okay to talk about it. You know, for a long time, we didn't talk about suicide. It was treated like cancer was in the 60s, where we called it the big C. People do matter, and we need to talk about the issue.
Barbara.
From what I understand, the young girl who committed suicide at Lee Summit had suffered from clinical depression for quite a while, and it was something her family was aware of and trying to work with. And yeah, I think it is extremely rare for a student to actually take their own life inside a school building. And you know, I was gratified to see how the school and the community and the other students responded to this in such a caring way.
Some people were criticizing recently the Blue Valley School District for spending $600,000 on bringing 19 social workers into that district, but that comes after a spate of suicides in that district. They're trying to respond, but not all school districts have the resources to be able to do that, Steve Kraske.
No, that's right. And I think the larger question here, Nick, is the whole mental health system in this country. I think Mark's right, Barb's right. We're talking more and more openly about these issues. That's a very, very important step forward, Nick. But the mental health system in our area, across the country, is in shambles, and it needs a whole lot of attention and a whole lot more money.
Mark.
We've got to make sure, though, that as we talk about it, we don't make suicide acceptable. And I think somewhat unwillingly, unknowingly, we might be doing that to say, hey, this is an option. This is a viable option. That if you don't like your life, that if you're unhappy, that's an option. And it is not an option.
In other news this week, the highest court in Kansas once again rules school funding in the state is inadequate. It is unfair and unconstitutional. The ruling represents a major setback for legislative leaders who 4 months ago pumped $485 million in additional money for classrooms paid for by an income tax hike. About 50% of the state's budget is spent on education, but according to the court, the students with the greatest need are still not getting the appropriate funds. Some stories never go away, Steve Kraske. This one is one of them. How many times does the court have to come to the same conclusion before they're satisfied?
One other way to ask that question, Nick, is how many times does the legislature have to not spend enough money to satisfy what the court's been asking for and what studies paid for by taxpayer dollars appropriated by lawmakers? They've never reached those levels during the course of these years. The good news here, Nick, is I think this whole years-long court battle is beginning to come to an end. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Lawmakers now have until the end of June next year, the next legislative session, to deal with this. It's going to be really interesting. Will they go ahead and appropriate this money during an election year, Nick, or are they going to balk? Are we going to hear more talk about a constitutional crisis during the 2018 session? That's going to be very interesting to watch.
Jim Denning, though, the Senate Majority Leader who comes from Overland Park, says there's simply not enough money in the state to ever satisfy the court. You wouldn't be able to raise taxes that much. I certainly don't want to cut Medicaid $600 million, take off all the kids off Medicaid, not pay the corrections officers.
Well, this is, again, a problem of the legislature and Sam Brownback's own making. Just a little perspective, this is actually the second go-round on school funding that I know of. And over a decade ago, they put money into school funding, and it satisfied the court, and they were showing good results in the schools. And then 2008 came around, the recession, and Kansas cut back on funding, as did a lot of other states. But when other states were making up their school funding, Kansas opted for tax cuts in 2012 and 2013. And that's why they're so far behind, and that's why the court is not yet satisfied.
So what happens now, Dave?
Yeah.
Well, the legislature will have to consider its options. Barb is right. Not only is school funding on the state level still below the level it was on a per pupil basis in 2008, but taxes are lower than they were. Income taxes are significantly lower than they were before the Brownback tax cuts. So the legislature will just have to decide whether they want to go back and raise taxes again to try and meet this target. One of the problems is the court never says precisely what they'll be happy with, and so it is a bit of a guessing game for the legislature. $600 million is the rough idea that most people have. That's hard, but not impossible to see. I mean, if you did that over 2 years, $300 million a year, your revenues went up a little bit. There are ways maybe to get there. And that's what the legislature will have to figure out in an election year where, by the way, gubernatorial candidates will all be weighing in.
Now, the governor himself wasn't around to hear most of these arguments because he was on Capitol Hill this week appearing before a Senate confirmation panel 3 months ago. Sam Brownback, picked by President Trump to be the nation's next ambassador at large for international religious freedom. Former vice presidential nominee Tim Kaine was among those quizzing Brownback about his suitability for the role in light of decisions he's made on gay rights.
Are you aware that there are countries around the world where you can be imprisoned and even executed if you are LGBT?
I believe that's correct.
Is there any circumstance under which criminalizing, imprisoning, or executing somebody based on their LGBT status could be deemed acceptable because somebody asserts that they are religiously motivated in doing so?
I don't know what that would be, in what circumstance, but I would continue the policies that have been done in the prior administration in working on these international issues.
I really would expect an unequivocal answer on that, but my time is up.
If Brownback is confirmed by the full Senate, he'll resign as governor and will be succeeded by Lieutenant Governor Jeff Collier, a plastic surgeon from Overland Park. But after this week's hearing, is there any question that won't happen, Steve?
Well, it's going to happen. The question now is the timing of it, and it's trying to decipher how the U.S. Senate's going to, when it's going to take up a matter and when it's not, is very, very difficult. But I think it's probably safe to say in the next few weeks, this matter should be put to a close.
So we're talking about weeks, not months?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Certainly. But let me just say quickly, this is kind of a minor level post, so it won't be controversial. But the way the Trump administration is running through cabinet officials, minor league posts suddenly become major posts. There's some talk of Mike Pompeo from Wichita, who's now at CIA, replacing Rex Tillerson as the head of the State Department. So you have to pay a little bit of attention to where Brownback, if he's in the administration, might go forward, and the Senate may hold up a little bit on that basis.
Okay, part 2 of the streetcar expansion election is this Saturday. Really? You didn't know? Well, it is, and unlike the first election, which was by mail, this one involves heading to a polling station. What is actually being decided? Barbara?
What's being decided is who is going to serve on a streetcar authority in the event that another election sets up an actual streetcar district, is my understanding, and gets a project underway. There's 19 candidates on the ballot, which is kind of amazing to me, considering how hard it is to get a school board candidate to run. But
7 board seats.
19 candidates for 7 seats.
And they just pick 7 of the people they like the most, Steve.
That's correct. You can vote for 1 candidate, you can vote for 7. It's up to the voter.
But there's a lot of concern about whether this will even go forward because the courts are getting involved in this too. Dave.
Right, and there's some voter-approved initiatives that may play some role or may not play some role, and it depends on federal funding, which is there's no indication yet that that kind of federal money will be available. But picking these board members will be important. They may be asked to make some decisions going forward, so voters should pay attention.
Well, a month from now, voters all over Kansas City, Missouri will have a chance to weigh in on an even bigger project, the future of KCI. Do you think the city should spend $1 billion demolishing the current 3 horseshoe design terminal and replacing it with a new single terminal? This week, for the first time, we get to see what it may actually look like as the company picked by the city to do the design work releases images of what may be in store, including a 2-story fountain inside the arrival hall with the technology to flash colors and images against the cascading water. And there's a scalloped roof design meant to conjure up images of rolling hills and fields of wheat. Mayor Sly James took a look and said he sees here the start of a world-class airport. How are other people receiving these images, Mark?
I was looking for George Jetson to pop up.
Okay, that's still to come. He may come just before the vote itself in November.
And his boy Elroy, too.
You know, the first thing I did when that came out yesterday is I took the side-by-side photo of the exterior of Edgemoor's proposal and compared it to Burns and Mack. I can't, aside from a few trees, I can't tell the difference. Can you guys?
And those pictures were circulating today. Even interior shots are almost identical between some of the Burns and Mack artist conceptions and the Edgemoor conceptions, which shows you something important, Nick, which is this is really a work in progress. I think Edgemoor put these out basically because of the demand for something before the election, but my guess is that the terminal, the final project, assuming voters say yes, which is a big assumption, but if they do say yes, the terminal won't look a lot like the pictures we saw this week.
Steve.
You know, but what I saw, to be honest, that was dazzling. I mean, that's really impressive stuff. It's the new way of modern airports like Indianapolis and other cities around the country, and I was really blown away by it.
You know, some people complained in the bidding process, well, we are voted for a design team and we haven't seen anything. Well, now they've been shown. This is what it may actually look like. How did you size up the images, Barbara?
I just kind of wonder, I mean, I agree with Steve, it's kind of dazzling, and I kind of wonder if that's going to be a positive, because we are here in the Midwest and voters tend to be very practical, and I am not sure that a whole lot of bells and whistles is actually going to be a plus when it comes down to a vote, you know, especially with a very skeptical public that kind of doesn't want a new terminal at all.
But the reality is that it doesn't have to look like this whatsoever, does it, Dave?
No, but voters should get used to this idea, practical or iconic, whatever you want to call it. You are going to have to walk farther from your car to the gate where you take a flight. People are just going to have to adjust to that. There was some moaning. I was at the City Hall yesterday when these were unveiled, and there was some complaining, oh, you're going to have to walk 800 steps or 600 steps. You know, you're just going to have to face that reality because the idea of being able to park your car across the street from the gate where your plane is arriving or departing is just not going to be sustainable.
This is going to be the biggest sales job I've ever seen in city government in my 30 years in journalism. The vast majority, according to the polling, of the people don't want it. When Burns and Mack was involved, the hometown team is only polling at 38% approval. And now we have an outside company that's partnered with Clarkson, which is a local company. And so they have that appearance that they have a local tie, and it is reality. But when you only have 18% of the people who are going to vote on this actually fly around the country and see big jazzy airports, 40% of the people who are eligible to vote haven't ever been to KCI. So how do you convince that electorate, if they turn out in a low election time, which we're going to see of about, what, 20% of the voters turn out?
Yeah, and November is normally a good time, but there's nothing else on the ballot this year because it's an off-year election, right,
It's the only issue, Nick, and I just echo what Mark just said. They had better get about this task of selling this project because time is running short. We're already reaching towards mid-October here. This notion that taxpayer dollars will not be used still has to be advertised, put in huge neon letters everywhere so people can finally begin to grasp this idea.
And you also have to start talking about the fact that Kansans are going to pay a large part of it because travelers come from Kansas, and maybe Missourians will get a kick out of that. The hope of the campaign, though, I think, Nick, is not that these 40% who never go there will come out to vote. They hope they'll stay home. So you're going to see a quiet campaign, identify your voters, try and get the people who really are committed to this, get them to the polls, do it micro-targeting, very data analysis, that type of thing, and not really inflame passions. If that happens, it may lose.
With streetcar expansion still uncertain and the future of KCI still up in the air, why is the city considering or even spending money on planning for a downtown ballpark? Did you see the front page story in the Kansas City Star this week? 4 sites have been picked out as the potential site for a downtown baseball stadium for the Kansas City Royals. 2 of those sites, according to slides prepared by the architecture firm HOK, are right next to the Sprint Center. City Manager Troy Schulte says the cost would be north of $450 million. Steve Kraske, I noticed in your recent column celebrating your milestone 30th birthday that bringing baseball downtown was on your wish list. Why was that so important to you, first of all?
Because it makes so much sense, Nick, because downtown baseball is just so cool, and what we're doing now makes so little sense. You have these 2 stadiums, these beautiful stadiums, out there on an island, no other businesses surrounding them. You bring them downtown, other businesses benefit, people like it, and again, downtown baseball is just cool.
So what's not to like, Dave Helling?
Well, Brother Kraske is out of his mind on this subject, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that out there very quickly. It would be cool. It's enormously expensive for entertainment purposes. If the Royals wanted to come down and spend $500 million to go downtown, have at it. But to ask taxpayers to come up with that kind of money, when we have so many other needs that are more pressing in this community, I think is counterproductive. The other thing to keep in mind is we've got at least a decade to talk about this because the leases that now exist don't expire until the end of 2030. So, you know, downtown baseball has always been on the back burner. It stays on the back burner. The heat has been turned up a little bit, but we're, in my view, far away from a definitive decision.
Would this be the second biggest sales job in the history of Kansas City?
I mean, with so much going on, how do you convince an electorate to approve this when we just remodeled 10 years ago Arrowhead and the K, right?
At $600 $600 million.
$600 million bucks that we haven't paid for
But we
yet.
are years away from that request. We're more than a decade away from going there. And as you have pointed out, these two stadiums that exist currently will be among the oldest in the country.
Right.
That's a fact we're all going to have to wrap our arms around here down the road.
And what happens to Kauffman Stadium in all of this, Barbara? Does that become the new home, for instance, of the second headquarters for Amazon, which the city is also, also at the same time it's doing all these other things, is also pursuing?
Well, you never know, but I think that's a stretch and a long shot, too.
How about the Fouch brothers? We'll get the Fouch brothers to go out there.
Well, it could also be, why not in Johnson County, because Sprint is also looking to merge with T-Mobile, and they have a huge campus out there. Could that be a potential location for a ballpark?
Suburban baseball is not cool. Downtown baseball is, Nick. Come on.
The other issue, of course, is parking. And some of the concerns that people have is, even if it's cool and they have the site for that, how do you get in and out? And it's very much easier where the stadiums are located right now for huge hordes of people to come in and out of that stadium. Even if there's just one concert downtown, it can become a nightmare.
Well, Nick, when we got the light rail build and we got maybe even faster rail from our new KCI, and it's all very futuristic, but yeah, maybe we won't need so much parking.
The world is changing. We've got to change with it. And
why not the riverfront, though? Why downtown proper? Why not on the riverfront?
Or on the east side where economic development is actually needed. If you're going to move it, move it to 51st and Prospect. But downtown is booming. The Royals drew 2.2 million fans this year for a 500 team. It just seems like it's not a high priority thing unless the team wants to pay for it. If the team wants to pay for it, more power.
But they haven't even suggested in news articles this week that they have much of an interest in this anyway.
No, it's way too early for that. The big push will be to get owner David Glass to begin to consider this possibility. That's what this is all about right now.
And that is our week in review. Our thanks to our news reviewers, keeping you up to date weekdays at 11 on KCUR-FM, Kansas City Star writer Steve Kraske, and pitch contributing writer Barbara Shelley, keeping you abreast of what's happening every weekday morning on Fox 4 News anchor Mark Alford, and in the pages of your Kansas City Star columnist and editorial writer Dave Helling. I'm Nick Haynes. From all of us here at KCPT, thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.